Lord Meher. The next day, Rustam arrived at Meribah and declared that his life had been saved by Baba's grace. The previous evening, as he and a group of persons were returning to Ahmednagar in a truck, they were caught in the rainstorm. Rustam was driving. Nearing what he thought was a shallow stream, he decided to drive through it. In the middle, however, the truck got stuck in a deep hole filled with sand. Rustam jumped down to determine the exact depth of the stream, and he was almost overwhelmed by the force of the strong current. Standing in the rushing water, he was losing his balance when he caught hold of the mud guard and cried out to Baba for strength. With the help of the other passengers, he was pulled back into the truck. After some time, another truck appeared. With some difficulty, they boarded it and reached home, leaving the stranded truck in the flooded stream. Rustam would have been carried away by the rushing waters had he not caught hold of the mud cart. It was later discovered that this incident happened at the same time when Baba was walking about in the rain looking for Baramji. Krishna's birthday was celebrated at Meribah on Tuesday, the 11th of August. Baba and the Mandali personally bathed the schoolboys. The Kolya entertained all with a bhajan program at 8 p.m., followed by a kirtan. The actual birth ceremonies were done at midnight, after which pedas were distributed and coffee was served to the Mandali. During this period, a rumor was circulating that Vishnu was guilty of contact with a maidservant, and the Meribah court was convened to sit in judgment. The case was tried as in a regular court, and the Mandali, acting as judges, noted every detail. The evidence revealed that except for handing the woman a letter, Vishnu was innocent of any misconduct. But even this brief, casual encounter was an infringement of Baba's orders. Uncertain, Vishnu asked Baba if it were actually a breach of his order, and Baba replied that it was. As a punishment, he directed Vishnu not to bow before him for 11 months, but Baba later pardoned him. During a discussion about the marriage of two of the Arangown students, Baba gave a brief discourse. If one has good moral conduct and leads a pure life without marrying, it is best because marriage at times creates impediments to one's spiritual life. But the bond of marriage is preferable to leading an immoral, promiscuous lifestyle with its terrible consequences. The bond of marriage should be such that the partners in life never involve themselves with any other man or woman. One day, Baba informed his close ones that he would be fasting from the 1st of September. He also began spending more time alone in his jogti, where he was writing his book. Besides the mornings, on some days, Baba worked on the book from early in the afternoon until 5 p.m., but he did not stop his other daily activities of grinding grain and inspecting the hospitals and schools. On August 17, 1925, one of Meher Baba's 5 masters, Tajuddin Baba, dropped his physical form in Nagpur. A great crowd of over 30,000 people marched through the city in the funeral procession. It was a few days before the Meribah community were able to confirm the master's passing through the newspapers. On August 22nd, in Tajuddin's honor, Baba asked everyone to fast for 24 hours. They were to bathe first and then gather together in the school. When all had assembled at noon, Baba, finding those who chewed tobacco a bit out of sorts, gave them a little to enjoy. And to those who smoked, he gave bidis, or cheroots, hand-rolled Indian cigarettes. But he instructed, as part of the general day-long fast, until sundown, no one should think of either tobacco or cigarettes. Gramophone records were played, and Angle Pleader expounded on passages from the Puranas and the life and teachings of Tajuddin Baba. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Baba personally garlanded Tajuddin's photograph, and then the photos of his other masters, and then the Mandali and everyone else paid their respects to the departed perfect master. Jalebis were distributed, and all broke their fast with the sweets. Oh, Tajudin Baba, age cried, we bow to your love for Merwan. You knew he was the heavenly rose and gave him your crown. It is a legend among Hindus, Tibetans, and Muslims that Jesus lived and died in India. In the course of talking with the Mandali at 9:45 p.m. on Sunday, the 23rd of August, Baba confirmed this. There is one secret about Jesus which the Christians do not know. When Jesus was crucified, he did not die. He entered the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the I am God state, without bodily consciousness. On the third day, he again became conscious of his body, and he traveled secretly in disguise eastward with some apostles to India. This was called Jesus' resurrection. After reaching India, he traveled farther east to Rangoon in Burma, where he remained for some time. Then he went north to Kashmir, where he settled. When his work was finished on earth, he dropped his body and entered Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He was buried in Kashmir. Saints in India have verified these facts about Jesus' travels. Mankind will soon become aware of them. Footnote says, in India and Tibet, Jesus' legendary name is Isa Asaf. It is also recorded in the Quran, passage 4:157, that Jesus did not die on the cross. The following day, a young Hindu, about 20 years old, appeared in Meherabad in a peculiar condition. He did not speak, but only smiled. He was very thin, and Baba kept him in the hospital. Later, Baba clarified, he is not mad, but he is a spiritually advanced person on the first plane of consciousness. He became the first musk, God-intoxicated individual to reside in the Meherabad ashram, where he remained until his death in 1933. Baba named him Mastan, and Gustaji and Sidhu were given the duty of looking after him. The young musk had strange habits. If he were given a blanket as a covering, he would unravel it thread by thread and then tie the threads into bundles. If he were given a ball, he would bounce it for hours until it was taken away from him. Whatever he started doing, he would not stop until he was compelled to do so. The tavern of the Saki is invisible to the world, yet it is always known to those who long to drink his wine. Meherabad Tavern became a refuge for the God-intoxicated. A large wooden sign with Meherabad painted on it was erected on the property as a landmark to visitors and the villagers passing by. After the sign was posted, Baba ordered Erit Shah to bathe the destitute wayfarers who came to Meherabad, explaining to him, the work in Meherabad is of cleaning dirt. To make this known, you should bathe the needy outwardly, while I bathe them inwardly. Now that the sign has been erected, people should know what is going on here. While you're bathing the poor, they will come to know that the work here is of cleaning away all refuse. Erit Shah was given towels and soap and began giving baths to many poor pilgrims. Baba would invariably find some fault in his work and would seldom be pleased with Erit Shah. At times, a speck or specks of soap would remain unwashed on the person, or a person's body would not be thoroughly dried. One day, Erit Shah bathed the man and wiped his body carefully with a towel. This time he was sure that nothing was amiss for Baba to find fault with. He proudly took the man to Baba, who examined him. However, Baba found a few drops of water behind the man's ear that had not been dried, and immediately called Erit Shah's attention to it. Erit Shah was dumbfounded. Those destitute persons who had been given baths were amazed because they had never had such thorough baths in their lives. Okay, let's have another reader, please. Rosalie, why don't you go ahead?
Baba's punctiliousness represented his inner cleansing. And outwardly, though Erit Shah tried to be meticulous, he could never please or completely satisfy Baba. During this period, Baba found out from the school children that some were eating non-vegetarian food at home. He was upset, as this indicated that the children's behavior had not changed in the least. Even after 6 months of his teaching and advice, he directed that Arjun stop feeding the offending children and that henceforth they should be given nothing except clothes and books. They were also forbidden to take part in bhajans or in bowing down to Baba. The children from the other neighboring villages were allowed to continue eating at Meherabad, but the nearby Arangawan children were sent home. I need more words. Were sent home for their meals. After the latter returned from lunch, Baba inquired about their food. Some had eaten only bakri and chutney, while others had eaten eggs and dried fish. Baba remarked, "I was about to serve a big feast today, but you made me so unhappy, I canceled it." However, those who had only eaten bread and chutney were given food, and the rest were sent home in the evening. The parents of these children approached Baba later that evening, seeking his forgiveness and entreating him to continue giving food to their children. Baba asked them to swear that they would never serve dried fish, eggs, or meat in their houses without his prior permission. The majority took the oath, and Baba was satisfied that most cooperated with him. In a special function a few days later, he gave the parents of every child new clothes, saris for the women and dhotis for the men. It so happened that news was brought to Baba that a lewd play was about to be staged in Arangawan. Baba went there with the mandali and explained to the villagers now how the morality of women and children suffered due to such performances. To compensate them for money they had spent on props for the show, Baba paid the participants 10 rupees each, and in addition gave them 30 rupees to enable them to erect a structure with a tin roof where they could sit and sing bhajans. One evening, Ram Biwa, a young Hindu of 22, came to Meherabad seeking admission to the school. He said, "I would like to be able to learn enough so that I can read the Rameshwari, Life of Ram. But my father does not send me to school and tells me to work in the fields instead. He says that I am too old for school." Biwa had left home with a few coins and only a few roasted chickpeas in his pocket. He had intended to go on pilgrimage to Pandharpur, but it was his great fortune to come face to face with Pandari, Lord God himself. Baba kept Biwa at Meherabad and renamed him Bolaram because of his innocent nature. There's a footnote.
Footnote just said Bola means innocent or gullible.
After the evening meal, Baba, communicating by gestures, began teaching Bolaram the alphabet in Marathi. Baba emphasized to him that he was the first boy at Meherabad to be personally tutored by him. Baba assured him that whether Bolaram remained with him or not, he would continue making progress in his education in spite of his age. The number of disciples and workers at Meherabad was rapidly increasing. During the previous few months, the number of men Mandali had increased so much that a new residence was built for them. It was a 30-foot square shed-like building constructed of tin sheets. In a row of its long hall, Baba allotted a place to each for bedding and trunks, leaving a space in the center where his seat was placed. Baba named the new building Makan Ekas, House of the Chosen Ones. On Friday, 4 September 1925, the building was ready for occupancy, and a housewarming was held where all were served tea and bhajjas. Makan Ekas was built opposite the post office building, next to the temporary quarters occupied by the teachers, Dr. Karkal, and a few members of the Mandali with their families. The post office veranda, where some of the Mandali had been sleeping, was extended and turned into a storeroom for supplies. Gustaji was the storekeeper and resided in the storeroom. Kaka Shahane and his wife, Manutai, and their children lived in the family quarters in Arangawan. Ramju and Gani, who lived near Lanavla, were frequent visitors. Adi Sr. stayed in Kushru quarters for some time and would come almost every day with his mother, Gulmai. Rustam and Freni were also living at Kushru quarters at the time, as Freni was expecting their second child. There were two men in Arangawan who worked extracting peanut and safflower cooking oils. Once these two villagers came to Baba with the complaint that their relatives were refusing to take part in a wedding feast at their house because, according to Baba's orders, no mutton was to be served. Baba sent Rustam to explain the purpose of this order to the relatives, but they were adamant. Finally, Baba had to personally intercede. Only after his intervention did the relatives accept his instructions and participate in the feast of vegetarian food. Holidays of every religion, such as Moharram and Eid of the Muslims, Dasara, Diwali, and Ganpati of the Hindus, Christmas and Easter of the Christians, and Papeti of the Parsis, were celebrated by the Meherabad community, during which time the schools and dispensary would be closed. Zoroaster's birthday was celebrated on 14th September. Baba wrote on the slate, Zoroaster was a great spiritual master, like Muhammad and Christ. That evening, Baba became angry with Baramji, who he said was disturbing him by speaking in a loud voice, while Baba was trying to converse with Yeshwant Rao and Sadashiv Patil, who had come. Suddenly, Baba turned towards Baramji and struck him once with his bare hand. In spite of Baramji being a stout, muscular fellow, he fell down. Then Baba's mood changed. He had a gramophone record played and explained, Zoroaster was born at the very moment that I struck Baramji. Many people from distant places throughout India would come to Meherabad for Baba's darshan. Thursdays and Sundays turned into regular festive occasions as throngs of people arrived. Although the gatherings were splendid, Baba, in order to accommodate the crowds and offer them adequate facilities, suggested that a dharamshala be built near the well. It was erected and named Sri Upasni Sarai Inn. Pilgrims could spend the night there, receive meals, and have their general health attended to when needed. The Upasni Sarai was inaugurated on Sunday, 20th September, and Baba directed Waman, the tailor, to deliver the opening address. When he stood up to speak, he was so nervous that he began sweating profusely. Despite much coaxing, Waman could not utter anything distinctly and began stammering. Finally, he haltingly spoke out one line congratulating Baba for opening the dharamshala. Everyone cheered and enjoyed the amusing incident. Afterward, according to Baba's instructions, Vishnu explained in Marathi the object and purpose of the Wayfarers Inn, and all were given sweets as prasad. I have to pass the reading. My voice went.
Just read the last paragraph of the page here. During this period, Baba's school chum, Kodu, came to reside in Meherabad. Kodu was the close friend who had accompanied Merwan to Shirdi to meet Sai Baba and Upasni Maharaj in 1915, and he would recount this story to the other men. Okay, Betty, would you like to read?
Oops. Yeah. The silence begins. He was put in charge of the water supply, and with the help of 2 servants, Kodu would distribute water to the Meherabad residents for drinking, cooking, and washing. By then, he and his wife, Najamai, fully accepted Baba as their master, and Baba would call their infant son Dinshaw, his first disciple. On 28th September, Baba nicknamed Kodu Sailor because of his water duty, and that became his name thereafter. Baba was in a good mood and gave others nicknames as well. Masaji was given the name Major. Eric Shaw was religious-minded and strictly observed the tenets of his faith, reciting the Zoroastrian prayers and wrapping the sacred thread around his waist. Because of Eric Shaw's devout nature, Baba renamed him Peshotan, which was later shortened to Pesu or Pesi by the Mandali.
You have a footnote. Peshotan was the chief disciple of Zoroaster. The name is also mentioned in Zoroastrian scriptures as a Messiah-like figure.
30th September 1925 was a day of celebration in Meherabad. A second son, whom Baba named Faram, Falu, had been born to Rustam and Frani the previous day. Rustam purchased many edible treats, and a few people came to celebrate the occasion. During a music performance, a Muslim began dancing and striking himself on the ground, as if overcome with divine intoxication. Some spectators were highly impressed, thinking he was a fervent lover of God who was indifferent to bodily injury. When the singing was over and all had departed, Baba complained of unbearable pain in his body. 20 of the Mandali began vigorously massaging him, but the pain did not subside. Baba bitterly remarked, "I am suffering because of that Muslim's prancing and jumping." Pesu naively replied, "What a frenzy of love overcame that man." Baba snapped, "It was not love, but a sham. Posing is the greatest sin, and God never forgives it. God is afraid of hypocrites and keeps himself at a distance from them." Pesu was surprised and asked, "Then what is love?" "Fire in the oven," answered Baba. "He who loves does not know that he loves. I have warned you to be natural and not pretentious. God cannot be fooled. He knows what you are. So what is the use of pretending to be what you are not?" On Thursday, 1st October 1925, Baba became very displeased with Arjun and declared that he would not set foot in the school until the negligence prevailing there stopped. At 2 in the afternoon, Baba convened a meeting at which he stated, "We should either carry on with all these departments of the school, hospital, dispensary, and dharmshala in the proper way, or else they should be abolished. Despite my repeated warnings, I find abounding negligence, which pains me deeply." Before coming to a final decision, all went to Shahani's house for their usual Thursday tea. After a game of Atya Patya, Baba retired to his jopti at 10:15 for the night. Some of the ladus Rustam had purchased in honor of the birth of his son still remained. Behramji distributed 2 of these sweets to each of the mandali, though Baba had instructed that only one be given. While the mandali were enjoying this sweet, they noticed Baba leave his jopti and begin walking towards Ahmednagar. The jopti was a considerable distance from the mandali's quarters, and it was pitch dark outside. Baba was striding swiftly down the road, and the men ran after him. With hand signs, Baba gestured for them to go back. They stopped, but watched alertly to see where Baba would go. Baba went some distance further across nalas, riverbeds, and fields, and returned to his hut by a circuitous route to avoid the mandali who were gathered on the main road. The next morning, Baba was in a pleasant mood and inquired about each man's health. However, during his inquiry, he came to know that each of the mandali had eaten 2 ladus the previous night. He was very annoyed and wrote, "All of you should now completely stop the work at Meherabad. What is the worth of your work when you have no value for my words? You work like mules the whole day, but if the work is not done according to my wish, it is meaningless. There are many in the world who also labor hard, but to do as I say is quite a different thing." Showing his disappointment, Baba again started walking toward Ahmednagar, but after going a short distance, he sat down under a neem tree. When the mandali approached him, he ordered them to go back, threatening to stone them if they came any closer. Silence reigned in Meherabad as all work ceased. At 3 in the afternoon, Baba sent word through Behramji for all to resume their work, though he remained seated under the tree. Soon Baba sent another message that all should continue doing their duties in his absence, as he would be leaving by himself for an unknown destination that evening. Hearing this, the mandali gathered together and decided to approach Baba and attempt to rectify the situation. Shall I just continue, Marvin? Oh, I see. It's a good stuff. The mandali,
Yeah, go ahead if you want to read one more page.
yeah, the mandali teachers and school children had been awaiting the master's presence since early morning, and had gone without food or water. They all walked, sorry, just a sec. They all walked to Baba and entreated him to return. Baba gestured. When you break my order and eat 2 ladus instead of 1, how can I trust you? If you fail to follow such a simple instruction, what is the point of your staying with me? They beseeched him for his forgiveness, and he finally granted it. An inner peace stilled the air. The students ran for their musical instruments and serenaded Baba back to Meherabad amidst happy laughter. A serious situation turned into a joyful one, and yet all were taught a lesson in obedience which they would not forget. This is an example of the lengths the master would go to in order to drive home his message to the Mandali. Baba remained seated under the tree all day without eating or drinking, simply to teach the men to obey him in the smallest manner. What compassion he has! Wow. Baba received news on 7 October that the Harijans of Arangaon had eaten the flesh of a dead bullock. He immediately closed the school and sent the Arangaon Harijan students home. In the afternoon, Baba was informed that the parents of the children who had previously taken the oath had not eaten the flesh. So those children were called back, and Baba walked to Arangaon. There he jotted down the names of those who had consumed the meat. The following day, all the villagers whose names Baba had noted came to him. They promised Baba again never to touch the flesh of dead animals, and further promised to bury any carcasses they found beyond the village limits. To make up for the income they would lose by burying these animals, Baba promised to pay each one 5 rupees for every dead animal's skin. Had Baba not insisted upon burying the animals, the Harijans could not have resisted the temptation of eating the flesh after skinning them. The master had ordered Alabak to construct a large teakwood table, 15 3/4 feet long, 5 3/4 feet wide, and 4 1/4 high. Attached underneath it, he was to build a small cabin of the same width, but only 8 feet long and 3 feet high. The table cabin was built in such a way that there was only room inside for a person to sit. It was first kept near the post office building, but on 4th October it was moved under the neem tree opposite the Jogti.
Okay, thank you, Betty. Wendy, would you like to read? Or how about Marion?
All right, I'll read. The silence begins. Baba's gadi was placed alongside the cabin under the overhanging top. The hand grinding mill was affixed beside the table where Baba, along with his brother Jalbai, would grind grain each day. Baba had been writing his book in the Jogti since mid-July. Although he wrote in the mornings, after his supervisory duties were over, he would sometimes retire to the Jogti and continue his writing during the day with the door closed. Baba did not reveal what he was writing in his book or allow anyone to read its contents at that time. On Sunday, 11 October 1925, after Angal Pleader's usual Puranic recitation in the morning, Baba and the Mandali were treated to tea and sweets in the afternoon in the village, and then participated in the annual dinner held in honor of the Saint Buaji Buaz death anniversary. When Baba returned from Arangown, he left the Jopti and began spending the night in the cupboard of the table cabin. From that day on, he wrote continually inside that cramped space. When Baba moved into the table cabin, he began fasting, declaring that he would remain only on water and weak tea without milk for an indefinite period. He forbade all to come near his new abode and said he would no longer be able to spare time for sports or games. On 16 October, a list of 40 to 50 Mandali members was drawn up, and Baba ordered them to fast for 24 hours on water and weak tea. Diwali, the festival of lights, was celebrated the next day. In the morning, Baba distributed sweets to the students and Mandali, thus breaking their fast with this prasad. Baba gave the children fireworks, sparklers, and firecrackers that Gulmai had brought. While the master wore a thin sadra, the women and the men Mandali gave him a ceremonial bath, each one pouring a small container of warm water over him.
Footnote says they had also given Baba a similar bath on Dasera, 27 September 1925.
Those who had come for Baba's darshan also had the rare privilege of washing his feet, and a considerable amount of money was spent on perfumes and fragrant soaps. A band played as each one bathed Baba's feet. Although the ceremonial bath was a joy for those pouring the water, it was an agony for Baba, who nevertheless underwent the ordeal to please his lovers. After the bath, puja and arti ceremonies were performed, and selections of the Puranas were read. After 6 days of fasting on liquids, Baba ate a little food and explained the purpose of his fast. He revealed that it was necessary for special spiritual work and aided him in inverse breathing, which he described as breathing in the opposite way in which normal human beings usually breathe. That afternoon, the Mandali were divided into 3 groups. The first was told to fast for 3 months on water and weak tea. The second to fast for 24 hours every Thursday and Sunday. And the third to fast only once a week on Thursdays. During the 2-day Diwali program, one evening Baba unexpectedly wanted to hear lectures instead of bhajan singing and selected 17 men to give speeches. Several did not know what to expound on. They stood before the large audience with blank, embarrassed looks on their faces. Others spoke at length about nonsensical matters. 2 hours of lectures were enjoyed while Baba kept score, giving each speaker a certain amount of points. Visitors during Diwali included Sadashiv and Bailey. Memo had also been to see Baba recently. For the past 9 months, since returning to Meherabad in January from Bombay, Baba had not shaved. But on 21 October 1925, the barber at Manzili Meem, Gangaram, came from Bombay for Baba's darshan and was allowed to shave him. The former laundryman at Manzili Meem, Kashinath, came the same day. He had broken the master's orders years before, and Baba had warned him that he would contract leprosy if he did not confess his sin. When he arrived at Meherbad, the Mandali were horrified when they saw that he was, in fact, now a leper. All his fingers had fallen off, and his face was disfigured. Kashinath begged Baba's forgiveness for not obeying him even after his warning. Baba indicated that he forgave him. Sobbing, Kashinath pleaded to be cured of the disease. Baba consoled him. I have forgiven you. After my forgiveness, this disease is now a blessing for you. Bear the suffering, and you will be blessed. Kashinath was permitted to remain at Meherbad, and he lived there for many years until he died. He was given food twice a day, but the Mandali were ordered not to speak with him except when absolutely necessary. Baba, too, for the most part, ignored him. When Baba was in a good mood, in response to Kashinath's salutations directed toward him, Baba would on rare occasions lift his hands in greeting.
Okay, thank you, Marion. Mona, would you like to take over? Trouble unmuting there.
From where, Marvin?
Right at the top.
Baba.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks. Baba, on the other hand, greatly loved Bahadur, the low-caste sweeper from Pune, whom Baba had once ordered to smear human waste on his body. During Baba's stay in the Pune hut in 1922, Bahadur would compose ghazals and bhajans and sing them to Baba. And when he visited Mehrabad, he continued to sing before the master. Baba would openly show his love for him, make him sit by his side, and then ask, have you composed something new? Sing it to me. Sing. And Bahadur would very happily launch into his latest composition. Later at night, on 22nd October 1925, Gustaji blew his whistle, signaling danger. The men immediately ran out of their quarters carrying sticks in their hands. When they inquired what was the problem, Gustaji explained. It was nothing serious. Apparently, a rat ran over one of the women as she slept, and she started shrieking. Hearing her, I blew the whistle. All the men laughed as the seriousness of the incident dissolved into a joke. Different men would keep watch each night during this period, and Gulab Shah, who had come to stay at Mehrabad, was put in charge of this duty. Chagan would help. Once Chagan fell asleep while on duty at night, and Gulab Shah was very upset with him. Sarcastically, he advised, if you feel sleepy, why don't you apply chili powder to your eyes? Chagan took him seriously, and the next night, to avoid falling asleep, he shrinked a little chili powder in his eyes and soon began crying aloud in pain. Hearing Chagan in pain, Baba himself washed his eyes with cool water, but the burning and swelling did not cease for several days. After fasting for 6 days, Baba began eating very small quantities of food on occasion. But on other days, he ate But as Ajoba noted in his diary, Baba was marked to be as fresh and active as ever. In the morning, he would remain aloof from others, preoccupied with writing his book inside table cabin. At night, when everyone was asleep, he would continue writing on the veranda of Hazrat Babajan school, using a kerosene lantern on a small portable desk. Footnote, please.
Are we done with the page? Oh, the footnote. Footnote says the desk on which Meher Baba wrote a portion of his book is now kept in the museum at Upper Meherabad.
Any of the Mandali who rose in the middle of the night, could you scroll down, please? I, yeah. Any of the Mandali who rose in the middle of the night to urinate would see Baba sitting alone by the school, absorbed with his work. During this period, a newspaper publisher and his wealthy friend came for Baba's darshan. The friend was so impressed with the work being done at Mehrabad that he offered financial assistance to Baba to support his activities. Declining his offer, Baba wrote on his slate, I am a fakir, so what have I to do with money? God is enough for us. Baba made it clear that he would not accept any contribution from him. On Hindu holidays, Arjun would fix a bathing schedule for Baba, and hundreds of people would each reverently pour a pot of warm water over Baba's body to sanctify the occasion. October 31st was the day of full moon, and Arjun arranged a ceremonial bath for Baba. Baba smiled and patiently endured it. But after it was over, Baba warned Arjun, don't force me to go through this bathing ceremony again and again. I've had a cough and cold since the last bath. Rustam, Pranay, and the two children had been living at Khushru quarters with Rustam's parents, but they moved into a renovated portion of the family quarters. On Sunday, 8th November, Baba and the Mandli were there for a housewarming party. Although it was the season of the monsoon, there had been a severe shortage of rain thus far. In early November 1925, villagers from neighboring areas approached Baba with a request for rain. As there was a scarcity of drinking water and a danger that their Rabi autumn crops might fail due to prolonged drought. Papa advised them to be quiet. On the night of 10th November, after a day of exhausting activity, Baba was in the midst of a discussion with the Mandali near the table cabin when the villagers returned. Again, they beseeched him for rain. And after Pasni Maharaj's Aarti was sung, Baba ordered a pit to be dug and a duni, a sacred fire, to be lit. The fire was started at 11 that night. Afterward, Baba informed the villagers, God has heard your prayers. Now go straight home. Although there had been no clouds in the sky prior to the lightning of the duni, an hour later, a heavy rain fell. The showers lasted for 15 hours and the villagers' crops were saved. The next day, Baba asked each of the mandali to compose a poem about the Duni. The school was closed for the afternoon and the poems of all were read aloud. Rustam won first prize, Padri second, Pandoba, one of the teachers at the school, third, and Kisan Master, also a school teacher, won the fourth. Next page, please. Jal Bhai too wrote a good poem and was complimented. It was entertaining to hear these rhymes. Each man dramatically read his poem as if he were a great poet. Each would explain his poem's meaning. However, except for Rustam and Badri's compositions, none had any deep meaning. Badri composed this poem, which Baba liked. O Sadguru Meher Baba, only you are our support, master of both worlds, powerful savior of us all. In the year 1925 of this 20th century, you declared the evils of the world will be destroyed. The date was the 10th day of the 11th month of 1925. At 10:30 p.m., you called your lovers near and announced the Duni was to be lighted. All arrangements were made, and we proceeded to your jhopri. We lit the Dhuni, the companion of all rishis and munis. My mind was full of thoughts, but I could understand nothing except that to save us from the rounds of births and deaths during which we suffered greatly and were beaten by nature, our powerful Sadguru came into our lives to rescue our souls. And the Dhuni was meant to burn up all our sins. The beloved had the Dhuni ignited because of the burden of our acts. Oh, Dhuni, you carry a much deeper meaning which I'm incapable of comprehending. Scroll down. Sailor penned this short rhyme. Ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully to what I say. Last night we lit the Dhuni and afterward a heavy rain fell. All Sadiqs love to light the Dhuni. It is their habit. It is quite difficult to explain. It is all your glory. Now, with your permission, I take your leave. I'm unable to describe anymore. Sailor says this is the first time in his life he has ever composed a poem. Baba immediately composed these lines about the Dhuni in Gujarati with a few Hindi stanzas included. My pen has not the strength to sing your praise. At the first glow of your flame, there was rain. How marvelous is your gift to cool your radiant blaze. God Himself, in honor of you, showered rain for hours on end. May you come to the rescue of thousands. May you receive the blessings of the poor. To those who pray to you, may you give protection.
Okay, thank you, Mona. Maho, would you take over here?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Page 624, The Silence Begins, 1925. Continues with poem. You have the attributes of a wali. He who loses himself in you becomes like you. Wonderful is your effect. Wonderful is your play. Wonderful is your nature. Yours is the gift which nurtures or destroys. The seed you fructify while the tree you uproot. Both are your blessings. One who uses you with care can cook hundreds of dishes. But to the ignorant who treat you carelessly, you are a calamity. You are like the wali, full of virtues as well as faults. You make one swim and another drown. Such is your nature. The whole region of Ahmednagar was without water. But at the perfect time, you rewarded the labor of the farmer. In the form of fire, you were hot. By becoming water, you were cold. As those near you were warmed by your flame, so also was the world made happy by your light. When you have surrendered to Baba, let your lips be sealed. Brave are those who serve at the feet of the Sadguru. Limitless is your greatness, O Duni. Only rishis and munis can fathom you. You made Brahman sleep and the sky weep. Your warmth melted the heavens, wetting my sadra. You are the real servant of the Sadguru. Stay near him always. Difficult was it to live in the heat of the famine, and it made you sweat. You are the true slave of the master, a fiery rod in my cool hands. After this reading was over, Masaji narrated what had happened to him the previous night. He was on watch with Baba and was sitting by him near the Duni before the rain started. He felt drowsy and dozed off for a moment. Meanwhile, his scarf fell into the Duni's flames. Baba clapped loudly a few times and Masaji awakened to find his scarf on fire. He yanked it out of the Duni and extinguished the flames. Baba then forbade him to sit near the Duni and warned him to stay awake while on night watch. From the time the master occupied the thatched, what is it? Thatched. How do you say? Thatched, yeah, thatched, you're right. From the time the master occupied the thatched hut in Pune, he would always have a watchman near him during the night, and he continued this practice throughout his life. In Pune, during 1922, Bailey and Arjun would be on watch. In 1923, at Manzil-e-Mim in Bombay, Bani and Pindu were assigned this duty. And during this period at Meherabad, it was usually Masaji or Padri who were the watchmen. Baba would sit inside the small table cabin to write his book. But when meetings were held with the Mandali, he would go to Makan Khas or to the school veranda. From Monday, 16 November 1925, a new seat for receiving people was selected according to his orders. It was between the table cabin and the Duni, where Baba would sit after he finished writing. Baba informed the Mandali of his new schedule starting from the 18th of November. From 8 a.m. to 12 noon, writing of the future book in the cupboard of the table. During these hours, all are forbidden to approach the neem tree by the side of the table cabin. From 12 noon to 4 p.m., inspecting of different departments, inquiries and advice, all connected with the relative departments should be frank with Baba about their difficulties. from 4 p.m. to 12 midnight, giving darshan to outsiders while sitting at the new seat near the duni. Gramophone playing after the evening bhajans. Baba said that he would suspend his writing work on Thursday and Sundays due to the increased number of visitors on those days. He again cautioned the Mandali not to leave him under any circumstances. He further indicated that even if he were to remain near the Duni for the whole day, they should continue doing their work as usual. Baba warned them openly, quote, "That terrible time may soon come when I remain in one place, and most of you will become restless to leave me. Although I will tell you to stay and prevail upon you by emphasizing the importance of your being with me, even pleading with you, most of you will leave me. Do not let this dishearten you. Continue to repeat my name sincerely to yourself and try your best to stick to me. Come what may. Do your utmost not to let go of your hold on my feet, and I will see the rest." The next day, Baba ordered Behramji and Rostam to go on a partial fast from the 20th onward, not eating or drinking anything during the day, but eating as much as they liked at night. They were permitted to drink a cup and a half of milk at 11:30 a.m., but then nothing was to be ingested until their evening meal, not even water. They were told to stop fasting 9 days later on the 29th of November. On Sunday, 22nd November 1925, a great crowd gathered at Meherabad for the Master's Darshan. As mentioned, every Thursday and Sunday there was a mass darshan, and flower and tea stalls would be set up by the side of the road to cater to the crowds. On this day, Ramju, Ghani, Sadashiv, and Syed Sahib arrived. Syed had brought an unknown Kabul with him, but when the man was before Baba, he professed his inability to sing. Nevertheless, he had the nerve to request in broken English that Baba gift him the box, meaning the harmonium inside the wooden box, which had been given to him to play. Syed was upset with the Roj, for he had paid his full fee and brought him all the way to Meherabad from Nasik solely to entertain Baba. Syed expressed his disappointment, but Baba prevented him from scolding the fellow and promised the man he would be given the box. Later, Baba remarked to the Mandali, "By powdering a piece of coal, its color is not changed. In the same way, whether a man be good or bad, His nature never changes. The darshan program ended at 8:30 that evening. Since there was no means of public transportation available, people shouldered their belongings and started walking to the train station. A harmonium was presented to the so-called Qawwali singer, and he again demonstrated his impunity by asking Baba for a coolie to carry it. Baba provided two of the mandali, first ordering them to secretly remove the harmonium from the box. The mandali lifted the empty box, groaning loudly and pretending it was heavy. They walked 5 miles to the railway station carrying the box and placed it in the train compartment. When the man was settled in the train and opened the case, he was shocked to find it empty. He had asked for a harmonium box and he got it. A few days later, Baba presented a blind singer from Ahmadnagar named Salaram with the expensive harmonium as his prasad. November 26 was Padri's birthday, and Baba garlanded and kissed him. The next day, a well-known singer named Pyaru Kwal performed in the hospital premises. Baba loved Qawwali music, and Pyaru Kwal had an exceptional voice and put his heart into his singing. The Mandali declared that it was the best quality they had ever heard. Many from Ahmadnagar and other places came to hear the performance.
All right, thank you, Mahu. Wendy, would you like to read?
Okay. How do I, wait a minute. Oh, I got it. Okay. Sorry. The silence begins. The number of people coming for the master's darshan increased to such an extent that seating at the programs became a problem. In response, Baba selected a spot near the post office and gave instructions to erect a large hall, 96 feet long and 66 feet wide. Named after his master, Sai Baba, it was called Sai Darbar, Sai's court. Baba laid the foundation for it on Sunday, 29th November, in the presence of hundreds who had come for his darshan. Built under Ajoba's supervision, Sai Darbar was made of bamboo matting and corrugated iron sheets. At one end, a stage was constructed for performances. The large building was completed a month later, and Baba began giving darshan inside it during large functions and celebrations. Later, the last part of his book was written in Sai Darbar. By this time, there were 500 people living at Meherabad, and a new kitchen was built in order to accommodate their meals. It was officially opened with an inauguration ceremony on the 30th of November. When Baba himself lit the hearths for the first time, followed by Zoroastrian prayers by Pasu, during the function, Salaram sang bhajans, and gramophone records were played, while sweets and tea were served. Food was prepared separately for the Hindus. They were so strict that no one of another caste or religion was even allowed to touch their drinking water. On 9th December 1925, it was reported in the newspaper that Mahatma Gandhi was in search of a guru. This prompted Baba to remark, Gandhi is already greatly prepared for a divine upliftment without being conscious of it. After 2 or 3 months, or 2 or 3 more births, he will become a Sadguru. The Mandali were encouraged when Baba further remarked about them. But you, brackets Lot, are far better off than Gandhi. You have already come across a guru, whereas he is still searching for one to whom he can surrender his body and soul. Baba was making similar promises to others in the Mandali. In a handwritten letter to Ramju on 11th December, Baba said, I love you as my own self. Not a second are you out of my mental sphere. Nowadays, the explanations would bewilder the Mandali here. Yes, one day, you two chaps, brackets Ramju and Ghani, will see actual, and then Lee, so don't fret, remember me. Bar Soap came to Mehrabad for a few days, and Sadashiv arrived on the 11th and left the same evening. Before going,
Let me read the footnote here. Bar Soap rejoined those staying at Mehrabad as a resident in the first months of 1926.
okay. Should I read the other again or just carry on?
Just start with before.
Okay. Before going, Sadhashiv, the Mandali, and Baba walked up Mandali Hill to have a picnic supper near the water tank. Although Baba had been fasting recently, in brackets, as the amount of vegetables was insufficient, Baba became very upset and later berated Naja, who had done the cooking. He then directed Parvati, the guardian of the leper ashram at Mehrabad, to cane Naja with a bamboo as a further punishment. Ramji too was blamed and taken to task for his indifference to his duty. 2 tea stalls made of bamboo and gunny sacks were built to serve the increasing crowds coming to Mehrabad every day. Sitaram Bua of Argonne managed one of the stalls, which also sold coconuts, incense, camphor, and dry snacks of parched rice and chickpea grounds. Rambu Mali operated a flower stall for people wishing to purchase garlands. One day, Baba visited Sitaram's cafe to inaugurate it and asked the Mandali to have tea. But there were so many people in Baba's party and so many already seated in the cafe that all of the Mandali could not be served. So Baba went to the other tea shop, managed by another villager, where the rest of the Mandali were given 1 cup each, served in chipped cups and saucers. Despite the impoverished state of the humble stalls, Baba, in good humor, regally christened them the Raj Mahal and Taj Mahal hotels, brackets, cafes. As mentioned earlier, when the new kitchen was opened at Mehrabad, Baba lit one of the hearths to celebrate the occasion. But there was a deeper significance to his action than was apparent at the time. Pandoba was a Brahmin, and for several days he had been asking for Baba's permission to eat with people of the other castes. Baba would always advise him to act in accordance with the tenets of his religion, which specified not mixing with others who were not Brahmins. On 12th December, Pandoba again asked for Baba's consent, which was given this time. Baba informed him, "I myself have shouldered your responsibility." Pandoba was the first among the Hindus to abandon the strict orthodoxy of religion and fully embrace the oneness Baba had been emphasizing. On December 14th, December 1925, Baba commented on the recent announcement given in the newspapers by Dr. Annie Besant, the head of the Theosophical Society, of the coming of a new world teacher, similar to Christ in the form of her young protege, J. Krishnamurti. Now, do you read that?
Sidebar says, let me read the footnote. The Theosophical Society was founded in New York City in 1875 by Madame Blavatsky as a universal brotherhood, dedicated to studying ancient and modern religions, as well as the latent psychic powers in humanity. After traveling extensively in India, Tibet, and Egypt, Blavatsky claimed direct guidance from ascended Indian and Tibetan adepts and spiritual masters who gave her the keys to her theosophical teachings. She published many works synthesizing esoteric and Eastern teachings. The Theosophical Society is credited as the organization most responsible for popularizing Eastern thought among spiritual seekers in both Europe and America. Okay.
It is all, oh, sorry. Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
Mhm.
It is all humbug. The Theosophists, including Mrs. Besant and Krishnamurti, do not have even a whiff of the truth. They say that the spirit of the world teacher will manifest itself through the medium of this boy in the world, and that the chief water of this show is supposed to be somewhere in the Himalayas.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. You know what? We only have a couple minutes. Let's just read the rest of the paragraph that Baba was speaking, and it says, "There is
Rainy
nothing."
Eastman is here, Rainy.
Would you like to? There's only a couple minutes left, but would you like to read a little?
Let's see if she's here.
Might have stepped away. There's really
Yeah.
only 2 minutes, so
Yeah,
I
sure.
just want to finish the paragraph that Baba was speaking. "There is nothing but dust and stones in those mountains. Real teachers like Buddha, Krishna, Christ, and Zoroaster never kept themselves perched on heights or lost in jungles. They mixed freely with those for whose upliftment they worked. In spite of their unthinkable and unimaginable states of exaltation, they brought themselves down to the lowest levels of their surroundings and students. Similarly, not a single spiritual master of the world who appeared under whatever external label ever required a, quote, vehicle, save his own physical body. If this vehicle of the coming world teacher dies within a year, let us see how Mrs. Besant takes it."
Hmm. Hmm.
You
Well-
can continue reading a little bit. Baba concluded.
Baba concluded by stating, "Really speaking, this false note, Krishnamurti, is also not without meaning. On the contrary, it is the result of my own multifarious working and it is clearing away the path for my own manifestation. Continuing the theme the next day while discussing false Mahatmas and saints, Baba pointed out in a warning tone, those who pretend to be divine personages or spiritual masters and who have an eye on the riches and women of others should be cut to pieces. There is no sin in doing it. On the contrary, by such an act, many devoted, innocent souls would be saved from their clutches. And lastly, Baba mentioned Gandhi again. Gandhi is the best man among the millions of non-realized souls in the world. In spite of so many people calling him a Mahatma, he unreservedly admits himself to be far from the goal. And according to his recent writings, thinks of completely surrendering to someone who is one with the truth. Realization of truth is a very difficult achievement.
Hmm. Wow.
It is 1:30 now.
Very
And
nice.
I think we should just finish the page. What do you think? There's only a
Well,
little.
does he
Yeah, we could
continue
do that.
about
Yes,
the
if we
Gandhi?
can,
Yeah.
if we can
It's
finish
kind
the
of
page.
we could stop right here. It's kind of a different subject,
Okay.
a little bit. Yeah.
So
All
we
right.
start
So
from this page.
No. Did you read about Gandhi?
Yeah.
Okay.
we read about Gandhi, and then he's talking about something else, and that continues on the next page. So
Okay.
we'll stop here. We were in the middle of 629.